Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SU Patrons video today that I'm making for Jacob Good as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen. We have the album Grassroots. This is an act named 311 with their song Lose, and we're going to listen through it from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. And let's get into it, let's go. What do we got? Got lyrics here as well, which is cool. I like the variety with the percussion immediately. Interesting effects chain on the guitar parts.
I can see it now. Ghosts of lost love's round. Funny thing is that we couldn't have it any other way. Kills me when we say, though all we've been through, all the songs that I've sung for you, we both know I'm gonna lose you. Hate to be alone.
I mean, they're seamless transitions, aren't they?
Time to reap what you sow. Though all we've been through, all the songs that I've sung for you, we both know I'm gonna lose you. Think of all the good times instead of wish we could time. So much better that way. This is what I asked for. This is what I deserve. Be careful what you ask for.
Fantastic transition to the guitar solo. Modulation. And that drum roll. What precedent are we setting here? And the combination of the beltry there was fantastic.
Think of all the good times instead of wish we could time. So much better that way. Yeah. This is what I asked for. This is what I deserve. Careful what you ask for.
I mean, the instrumental work here was phenomenal. I'm not sure if I'm phenomenal, should I say? I not sure if I'm totally sold on the structuring of it, the way the actual chord progressions and stuff move between them, just in terms of the context of the lyrics and stuff like that. But I think I'm happy with everything else. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. Just having a quick look through the lyrics now, just to kind of get a feel for it. I can see it now to show you how the funny thing is we couldn't have it any other way. So I assume, all the songs I've sung for you, we both know I'm going to lose you. I hate to be alone. There comes time to reap what you've sown. I like that line, think of all the good times instead of wish we could times, as if we're focusing what actually happened as opposed to what could have been or what should have been. This is what I ask for. This is what I deserve. Be careful what you ask for. I think I get it. We're going to talk about it more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named 311 titled Lose. Now, what do I think this track's about? I think that this song is discussing maybe like being in a relationship with another, and it's sort of looking at the actual realistic, like what actually happened within that relationship, why it fell apart, the risk of losing that person, understanding no matter what we could have done, we'll maybe not have the luck, or it's just not going to be enough to sort of continue it. I think it talks about our ideas and what our expectations of what a relationship would be versus what reality actually is, and the fact that sometimes if we wish for more, we often end up with less. And it's sort of going for maybe being okay with what you have so that you don't lose it. I think that's kind of the pretense of it. I dig that. I think it's an interesting story. There'll be an audience for it. People can relate to it. I can relate to it. So I feel like in that way it's effective. The vocal performance itself is very sort of like chilled out and relaxed. It works with that kind of reggae, kind of dubbish kind of vibe there with the offbeat accents on some of those guitar sort of like bass parts as well. And I think that just the mood of that makes it a bit more palatable. It doesn't sound too sad like you could with a track like this with the subject matter. And it allowed for more, almost like a more kind of bittersweet or melancholy approach that worked well with the different sort of minor and major key oriented, or major or minor chord oriented chord progressions throughout this piece, with the occasional chromatic or bit of tension harmonically there with some of the flat second, minor 7 flat 5s or diminished or whatever they're going for there. I feel like we navigated it effortlessly. Some of the delay tails or repeats we had in certain parts, like the second verse, were cool because it made the most of the space that was allowed. And when we did explore the frequency range or our chest and head voice a little bit further, we were rewarded there. We never overstated our mark, but we knew how to have presence without going too hard, and I think that's a nice balance to achieve here. So then the vocals were well handled, and they do communicate the story in a really palatable way, both sort of technically and expression wise. The track itself of 4 minutes 17 I think is reasonably well fleshed out. I'm not totally sold on the structure there. The solo section kind of seemed a bit too sort of stop-starty for me. I'm used to their sort of, if there's one or two chord progressions or ideas in the backing parts, and I'm used to the guitar kind of following along there, but I also appreciate we didn't want to have like a total minute's worth of straight guitar solo in there. So allowing a bit of space for a different move, a different perspective there, harmonically, sort of like progression-wise is cool, and it maybe offers an alternate perspective there that's more blunt and similar hit. Maybe the person is stopping talking and then communicating, continuing once they've had a sort of like a moment to sort of process those alternate sort of like perceptions. But I feel like, the verse chorus structures we had here, that the lyrics being relatively easy to like follow along with and understand there, whilst still being a little bit mysterious or adequate enough to be able to keep a sense of intrigue. They're beautiful with the guitarist playing a mixture of different minor, major, extended, and sort of occasional diminished or chromatic kind of like chords there for a bit of tension. I feel like they illustrate the emotional complexity to a point that is really helpful there. The bass line typically working with the root notes with different rhythms, maybe working with some 8s, occasionally some 16ths, keeping a good sense of pace with both the basses, with both the drums, should I say, as well as a lot of the other sort of like guitar elements in the mix. I'll talk about lead guitar in a moment. The drums were fantastic. I appreciate the freshness of the percussion and the variety of different tom fills and grooves and sort of main beats that we have within it. We keep those kind of offbeat kind of elements there with the 8th notes on the hi-hats, the kicks and snares and stuff, and we're comfortable allowing space within this arrangement. And that interlude section after, like when there was that break, boom, boom, that's incredible chemistry between the different members within this band. It's incredibly difficult to do that in a way which is provably proficient. Live, it'd be fantastic. Just you have to really be paying attention to everyone else. It just illustrates their chemistry as a band, the self-awareness, as well as their like kind of teamwork, but also just how tight they are rhythmically to be able to sort of count those out, keep it going at the same pace, and have that ability to just kind of be that. It's just very tight. And the mixture of different sort of like really quick tom fills, working with the highs, lows, mids as well, exploring the drum kit was just tremendous. And we had enough sort of range there for the drums to be one of my favorite parts of the track for sure. I like that we had that range, was not overcomplicating it or trying to overshadow the main parts of the song, including the solo sections or the vocal parts. There was this interesting overarching guitar tone with like a leady kind of chorus or flangey thing going on there with the occasional sort of strummed bar chords there. We had some sort of like cleanish or like kind of crispy leads there, and we had an extended solo section at the end there with a wide range of different hammer-on pull-offs there, bendy bits, slides, even sort of sweepy or sort of like really fast kind of shreddy stuff. We explored the relevant scales and modes well, and were not afraid to go for some chromatics or stuff outside the diatonic, which I think was fantastic, and those modulations between his different progressions added a jazzy sort of fusion. That was really kind of like great to listen to. It made the guitar playing more interesting, even if again I didn't necessarily understand just from listening to the solos alone how they connected. It's almost like we were just expressing different moods, and then we were coming back into the vocals at the end for that final chorus. It's a subjective thing though. If we're trying to create an atmosphere and have those notes and chords and everything like that within it, I think that's totally fine. It's just me sort of trying to figure it out from like an actual outsider basis. I'm also not as familiar with 311 stuff, so if that's more of just a kind of a stylistic thing that they continue with, they try and have like those little twists and turns there without a clear sort of like cohesion between them or like something connecting them with that. If that's like the concept of the entire album, to have tracks that roll like that, that's structurally, stylistically, that's totally fine. And even if I am not used to it, it's still fine, don't get me wrong. But I think in terms of the actual performance, it's tremendous. I like the little sort of bits of ear candy as well. Like in one of the parts of this guitar solo section, we had the bell tree going backwards and forwards both in the stereo field and in the arrangement itself. And it was just nice to have that sort of shimmer and shine there, almost like we were having an epiphany of some kind. The music was sort of wrapping around our brain. And I think finally, it's just when you combine all those different elements here, you have a track where they really tried to flesh it out for that 4:17 in a way where there wasn't any filler. I think everything that needed to be there, and you might have more to like another. I might have another listen later on, just a second go at it, just sort of really feel out that later section and to sort of hear how it whirls with the first. I think maybe that's just multi-listen context, but overall, really tight track performatively. The theme itself with those different chord progressions, I think, is trying to illustrate their understanding that there have been good and bad times, and that it's complicated, and you're almost like just stuck in a state of flux. You know, hoping for more, ending up with less, learning from that and being grateful, but also being sad that you had to go near that in the first place. So I think the music represents that well in regards to the vocals, the story there, the actual chord progressions and note choices there, the alternate lead being a bit like indecisive in some of those solo parts. Despite being very, very well played, don't get me wrong, like the guitar, it was a fantastic lead solo technically from the guitarist, and I like the note choices. It's just, yeah. Just the studio recording, mixing and mastering is fantastic as well. I really appreciate how things were caught in the mix. You could hear the vocals clearly, even with the repeaters and everything like that, the different sort of tones and textures for the different guitar parts, including the chorus flangey one, the main sort of cleaner kind of rhythm bar chordy bits on the sides there, the lead, the end, the bass and drums and everything else, the bell trees with the way it moved around the stereo field. Everything there was really well captured and very efficient. There was dynamic range, things weren't squeezed too much in this, and things were niched well in the frequency spectrum with no weird resonant frequencies. It was nice and loud without pumping, but it also, again, it had room to breathe. It wasn't overdone. And ultimately, I think, while this might not have been my favorite song, I still appreciate a lot of what's going on here, and I think it's a really great effort. So thank you for watching my review of this track from an act named 311 titled Lose off of the Grassroots album, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via the various social medias and the Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe. Please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next SP Patrons video. Spiderhands out.